Welcome to Behind the Badge with your special guest, Lieutenant Williams, your news source for all things police in the city of Fond du Lac.
This is KFIZ Today. This is Behind the Badge, our weekly visit with the Fond du Lac Police Department. Lieutenant Ryan Williams is in studio.
This week is usually the week that I get asked a lot, and I want to talk about it on the radio because this was an anniversary of March 20th, 2011, which is a date that I'll be tied with for my whole life. It was the anniversary of Officer Craig Burkholz losing his life in the line of duty, and at that same day, I was shot in the line of duty as well as my K-9 officer. And I think we've kind of talked a little bit about it on this show, and I think it's important, I think, for law enforcement and for the city of Fond du Lac to just kind of talk about it from year to go. And the one thing that I've learned throughout my ordeal is a lot to do with dealing with grief. And this is a hard thing for people to do, obviously, dealing with grief. It's one of the hardest thing that you have to learn to do, but we really like to judge other people on how they deal with grief. We really do. We really kind of make our own assumptions, and often we say that person's not dealing with it right. That person's not doing that the right way. And the answer is, what is the right way, right? And the right way is whatever works for that person. You deal how you deal, and when you are in my experience, where obviously what happened to me, and then after that I became very active with officers that have been killed in the line of duty and their families. I've learned that there's always these hard feelings, and what we don't realize is that a lot of times that's just how those people cope. And as long as you're not coping with drugs or alcohol or something that's has a bad effect on yourself, it might be the right way. It might be the right way. Like, some people might just need to put it past them and move on with their life. Some people may need to talk to someone a lot about it. Some people might just need check-ins here and there. It's important to find out when you have grief in your life to figure out what your way is of dealing with it and go to that. And it's good to have people with you that can steer you, and if you are making wrong turns and stuff like that. But all in all, you can't hold people, you can hold them accountable, but you can't feel bad because you don't think they're dealing with things the right way, because there's no right way. There's no book that's written on how to deal with your specific grief. But that's something that happens kind of for me, and something that when I look back, I think I get questions from people who are brave enough to ask me about that. Some people look back at how I dealt with the situation and said that they felt like I didn't deal with it the right way, that I wasn't sad enough or mourned enough or this and that. And my response to them is, I dealt with it the way that I knew how to deal with it, and that worked for me, and that might not be for everybody. And I've definitely mourned, I've shed tears, I've done all that, but I haven't done it publicly or wherever. How I dealt with it is I talk about it a lot. Every year I still talk about it. When we have a new hire comes to our department, I give them the debrief of what happened on March 20th, 2011. I talk about it to everybody, because there's lessons to be learned. And those lessons are important, not only for me in my life and for me to talk about it, but for the future officers that come to the city of Fond du Lac. That incident led to so many positive changes in law enforcement that it's ridiculous. The reason that I'm on this radio today talking is I put on an extra ballistic tactical vest. That was not commonplace. The only reason I had that was I was part of the K-9 unit, and we decided to raise our own money for these vests. We'd go on K-9 tracks, and we find ourselves doing tracks through cornfields, and our cover units would be nowhere to be seen, and we were very vulnerable because we're concentrating on our dog, and we're hey, we need something else. And I remember that day, we knew we were going to go in the house because we were looking for a kid after a vicious sexual assault occurred, and we knew we were going to go and clear the house and look for the kid. And I said, well, since we have a little time, I'm going to put on this extra vest. And I won't say who said it, but my supervisor at the time said, well, we don't have time, but hurry up. And I did. I said, okay. And I said to another officer, I said, there's another vest in that supervisor's vehicle, which was like, I don't even know if it stopped bullets. It was like from the 70s, I think. And I said, you go put that on. And we did. That decision alone saved my life. Along with a bunch of other little tactical things that we did, helped save my life. It was a day that I can literally, when I go back, I can taste the gun smoke in the air. I can taste the blood like that from my lungs, like just by the memory of it. We were just clearing the house. We had little information. We just knew there was a sexual assault that occurred. There was possibly a child inside, and all information at that time said there was. And I started going upstairs, and a shot rang out. And I thought instantly, I remember this thought, I thought, I'm shot, it's through the lungs, because I was just immediately, my mouth filled up with blood. And I said, that's not good. And my first thought, and my wife says, I don't blame you for this. It wasn't about my wife, it was my kids. I had a 1 and 2-year-old at the time. I'm like, I was just thought about my kids. And we talk about our training, police training, how important it is. And I remember springing up, grabbing my mic and saying, shots fired, officer shot, I'm shot. Like, just that instinct of doing that. And I got out of there. I got out of the residence. I was assisted by another officer and kind of passed off to the side. And then once we got outside the residence, just shots were going off like crazy. Like it was like a dream. It was hard to cope that was reality, but I remember it very well. And during the course of that gunfire, I had an officer trying to like see how bad my wounds were. I was able to move around and stuff. I was actually able to take out the outer vest, but we weren't able to get the inner vest off. And I remember looking across the road, and there was an officer laying down, face down on the road. And I didn't know it was Craig at that time. I didn't know Craig Burkholz had called out on scene. I thought it was Zach, because he was the only other male officer I knew was on the scene. He was actually in the house again still. And it was just like you were all just reaction. And I was luckily able to, with the help of another officer, make my way to an ambulance. And the good things and the bad things about a small town of Fond du Lac is we know our firefighters, right? Like, they're not just some paramedic working on you. It's the paramedic that, hey, my kid plays basketball on your kid's team, and that. So you know them, and they can't lie by their facial expressions. They know you. I only heard one shot. I was shot pretty bad in the right shoulder, and there was also a wound in my left back shoulder. So they said, how many shots? I said 1 shot. And if you think about all the organs and stuff between those 2 locations, I could read by their faces that it didn't look good for me. And I remember at that point saying, I want to call my wife, and thinking like last words, like what are they going to be? What am I going to say? And they said, no, we can't let you do that. And I'm like, I kind of really want to call her. And they said, we can't do that. And I remember thinking, these guys are going to be saving my life for the next little bit here. I kind of don't want to make them mad while they're doing that. So I kind of put it to rest. And that was back when we had Fight for Life right in town. So they transported me over to that airport. And once again, they had to knock me out to put in a breathing tube. And I remember not being afraid. I remember being mad, like really mad, because I was like, if this is gonna be it for me, I want the ability to fight for my life. I don't want to be knocked out and then end up dying. I want to fight. And I feel that above all, that fight is what brought me back. Like that that in me right there said, no, this is not happening, and I wanted to fight, and I recovered fast. Like, I had very bad injuries. I was out of the hospital in a week. Obviously, our department went through a lot of tragedy, and like I said, one of the things that helped, I had a lot of hospital visitors. I talked to every single one of them about what happened. I realized my importance to my department, and that was, I was the one silver lining in this horrible situation. The fact that I survived was such a huge thing, and I wasn't going to take that lightly. I was going to get back. I was going to do everything in my power to work and get myself back on duty, to show that I can do it, to show that to our department that we can move on from this, that we're strong and that we can do this. And I did that. And sometimes if I look back at the, I never said no. I probably should have said no a couple times. I basically, it was all for the greater good. We started at that point raising money for ballistic vests, which this town was amazing. The city of Fond du Lac was so supportive, and they continue to be supportive of our police, but they were coming out of the woodwork. Like, there were just so many people that I had calls with, like some of them not even good calls with, and they would come and support us. And like I remember me and my wife, we didn't have to cook lasagna for like 3 months. We had so much lasagna, like everyone just made lasagna for us, and it's that day that I was just like, there was no doubt in my wife's mind, there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to get back and do this job, and that we had to. Now we fast forward to where we are now, and what I found out is, even though I felt strong and I wanted to get back, I think my ability to do that was unique, and a lot of people kind of just put in and said, hey, like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. And then what they found out was they grieve in different ways, and they realized that they were going home and they were just kind of like not with it. They were kind of spacing out, and they were just kind of going through the motions, and it all was kind of from this call, because they were exposed to the same things, right? They might not have been physically hurt, but mentally it took its toll. And it was probably about a year after the call that one brave patrol officer came forward and said, I'm not right, like something's wrong, I need help. And as soon as that brave officer came forward, about 6 others came and said, me neither, me neither, me neither. And that was when they finally were able to get the help that they needed, as far as treating the trauma of law enforcement. So when I talk about grieving and dealing with how you deal, I take that to heart, and it was a hard lesson to learn, because we do like to judge, and we always compare people to how we deal, and that might not be the same for everybody, and that's an important thing to learn. And then you might say, well, that person is they're not doing it the right way. Well, what is the right way? There's no guidebook. There's no anything. A lot of times this happens, like, there's a death and like a spouse moves on like quicker than we think, but that might be how that person needs to move on, and that's, we can't judge for that. We like to. We're human beings. We always like to judge, but you feel how you feel. You deal how you deal. As long as it's not alcohol and drugs that you need to use for coping, then you're in a good spot. I could talk about this incident forever. I still go out there and I spread the message. I think there's a lot of things that came from that. Our county, I gotta say, hats off to our county. One of the techniques they used in this incident is taught now throughout the state as target-specific directed fire, and it's taught to all academies, and it was cutting edge at that time. It was never really used before, and it came from our county. So hats off to them. I think through this incident, there was a fallout between our city and county a little bit, just on how we dealt with that as well. And once again, there's no right way, but I think we've kind of crossed those bridges now, and we're getting closer together, and we're working with our county better. So a lot of lessons to be learned. I know it's a more somber turn as our normal conversations, but it always comes up March 20th. For me, it's not going to go away. Every year feels different than another one. It doesn't get worse, doesn't get better. It's just different. Every year's different, and this is the time when we think about it.
Absolutely. We will always remember and appreciate you, Sharon, very much, and appreciate all you do, and definitely, yes, I think you got that will to fight, and thank God that you did and that you continue to do what you do. So appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Behind the Badge, KFIZ Today.